Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wise Counsel Live. Today, how are you doing, Bob?
I'm doing great. I'm hunkered down here in my my man cave here at my home today. But can you hear me okay? Everything's good?
Sounds great. It looks like you put up some extra sound absorption things there in the background.
Hey, I'm improving all the time. Got to improve. Got to improve. Yeah.
Well, thanks everybody for joining. We're going to give a little bit more time while we allow some more people to roll in.
Yeah.
Hope y'all are doing well out there and staying warm. Hopefully, you stocked up on firewood if you like that and you have a fireplace. I know I was hoping I had a chance to do that this weekend, but I didn't. So I don't know. If you buy firewood now, it might be a little wet. But
yeah, if
better than nothing.
Anybody listening to us Texans talk about cold, they're laughing. If they're from up north, they're like, "Yeah, this is."
Yeah, for any of you that are up there in Washington State or Wisconsin, yeah, you guys are just.
Let's go ahead and get rolling, Zach.
All right, well, we'll get started. Thanks for joining today. Today we're going to be talking about a little known provision in the IRS code that allows you to do something that most people say you can't do. So we're going to be talking about something called Section 72T withdrawals. And the reason this is a big deal is because if you have, like most people, your money, the majority of your savings in an IRA account, the IRS says you can't take that until you're 59 and a half, or they're going to ding you with a 10% penalty on top of the income tax that you normally are going to pay. So this rule is actually a way that allows you to take withdrawals out of your IRA before 59 and a half, but not have to pay that penalty. So Bob, just curious, in the time that you have been doing planning, is this something that you've used often?
I wouldn't say often. I've talked about it many times where it was a possible strategy, but we kind of, and I know you have this same view after being in this business now for almost 10 years. This is one of those things where when it's the right solution, it's fantastic, but usually it's not something we want to do unless we really need to do it, because there's some inflexibility to it. There's always a trade-off, right? There's pros and cons, and the pro is that in certain situations, this can be a real tax saving strategy when the circumstances are all lined up correctly. But one of the things I don't like about it is it's inflexible. If you elect this strategy, you pretty much have to take the money out over 5 years. And so, yeah, we'll break it down a little bit today and maybe throw a couple of examples around so people really kind of understand where would be kind of the ideal scenario where this might make sense.
Right. Right. So yeah, let's just talk a little bit more about what this is. And first, some of you out there, you might be saying, oh, well, I'm not 59 and a half. I've heard that you can take money out of certain 401k or 403b plans. There are some specific rules that allow you to do that from specific 401k or 403b plans. If you've already retired and you're prior to the age, there's still some age requirements. One of the cool things about this 72T withdrawal exemption is that you can do it at any age. So whether you're 45 or 52 or 57, it doesn't matter. This is a way for you to get money out of your IRA when needed and not have to pay that 10% penalty. The other thing is this really wouldn't apply if you have, in cases of an illness or a disability. If you do have like a terminal illness or you're disabled, there are other IRS provisions that allow you to access money in those unique circumstances. So this is really for somebody looking for, they need to meet their monthly expenses, or they want to pay for their just regular living expenses. They're not 59 and a half yet. And this is going to help them do it. So the other term for 72T is this is called sometimes the substantially equal periodic payments exemption, or SEPP. So
Rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
yeah, yeah. So just let's dive into some of the details about how these work. When you elect to do this, the IRS says that you have to take out at least 5 equal payments from your IRA. And that has to be done over the course of 5 years or until you reach age 59 and a half, whichever's longer. So if you're 57 when you choose to start doing this, you'll have to take it for 5 years. You'll be over that 59 and a half. You'll be into your 60s, but you have to do it for 5 years. If you're, let's just say you're 53, you'll have to do it for over 6 years until you reach age 59 and a half. So whichever one's longer, 5 years or age 59 and a half. And the real, we've talked about how these payments are fixed. They're not very flexible. So the IRS gives 3 methods to calculate what the payment's going to be. And it's determined in large part by your life expectancy and the account balance of your IRA. And then there's some other, based on the methods, there's some tables that they release, there's interest rate numbers, and those are adjusting and changing. But there's 3 amounts, and each one of the 3 results in a different payment. One is typically lower, and then the other 2 are higher, but they're pretty close. But one of them always results in the highest. And which one you go with may determine on in part whether do you want to take the largest payment that you can, do you want to take the smallest payment, and of course that would be determined by the balance in your IRA. So you know, if you have a smaller IRA and you want to take a lot of money from it, you'd want to use the higher one. But there's limitations here, and you know, we won't really jump down into details of all of the calculation methods, but there are 3. And typically, the amount that you receive is going to be about maybe between 3.5% and 7% of your IRA's account value per year. So if you're in your mid 50s and you have and you want to, and you have a $500,000 IRA, you might be able to take around 20,000 or so a year. And so that would be, in that case, a $20,000 payment every year. So, and you know, the highest one may be 25,000, the lowest one may be 18,000 in that case. But you may have an IRA that is quite large, and you're saying, you know what, I don't need that full payment. I need some money to supplement my income. What we can actually do is it applies to a specific account. So we can take, say you have $1.5 million or $2 million IRA, and you only need $2,000 a month to supplement your income. We can actually take maybe $500,000 or $600,000 or whatever, you know, back into that calculation, and we can move that over into a separate IRA account to just hold that balance, and then we'll do the calculation method on that balance to give you the exact amount that you need. So, you know, we'll choose the calculation method and do that, but it's kind of a technical process, but not something that we've had a problem with in the past. The other thing that I will say about the payments is, in the one that is used most often because it gives the largest payment, it's determined by interest rates. And of course, most of you on the call know interest rates got hit hard this year and are much lower. And the interest rate value that they use in January was over 2%, and now it's at 0.5%. So what that means is that the payment that you can take from a given balance, it's about 20% less nowadays than if you would have done this at the beginning of the year. And so, or if, you know, if we back into that number, you just need more money in an IRA account to get the same amount of payments off of it, right? So, you know, that's one of the downsides if you're trying to maximize how much income you can take. Bob, just briefly, based on past circumstances and just, reasons? What are some of the reasons that somebody, life circumstances that somebody would find themselves in where they'd want to do something like this?
That's a great question. We've seen over the years everything you can imagine as far as circumstances, and this would be the kind of strategy that would probably be more applicable for somebody. The younger you are when you retire, the more likely this strategy is worth at least considering. I've seen people retire in their early 50s, and they're faced with either they've got a big enough pension and maybe they're going to work at a part-time job afterwards where they don't need money from their retirement accounts. That might be one escape. But B, they may have, large retirement plan at work. They don't have to roll it out if they don't want to. And they think, well, if I hold it and I get to age 55, then would I be able to take it out penalty free? Well, that gets into a whole nother set of rules. But more likely the question is going to be, do I need extra income from this money before I'm 59 and a half? And if the answer is yes, well, then we've got a discussion to have on this. And you're absolutely right, Zach, that the last thing I think people would want to do is tie up their entire account under this strategy if they don't have to. And why is that? Well, it's because once you start it, the IRS requires that you take that amount out every year for 5 consecutive years, or 59 and a half, whichever's longer, as you said. And I just don't like inflexibility personally.
Right.
But I would say that anybody retiring at or before age 56, this is going to be the most likely to maybe make sense for them, because they've got 4 or 5 years before they're 59 and a half. And but the good news is, even if that is the case, what we would typically do is we'd say, okay, let's look at the 3 strategies and the one that generates the highest payment per IRA asset. And we could, as you said, we could reverse figure out how much needs to be in an IRA for just this strategy to meet that income need for the next 5 years, 6 years. In that way, going back to your example, you got $1 million IRA. Let's say you only need 300,000 to set aside to generate these payments under 72T. So that 300 is kind of locked in, but the other 700 is not locked in at all. You can invest it. You don't have to make distributions from it. It's totally unencumbered. So there is some planning that can really help make this a little less inflexible. But the younger they are, the more likely this is going to be a viable strategy.
Yeah. There's certainly a situation, hopefully someone finds himself where they have enough assets built up, they can retire in the early 50s. That's great. And sometimes people are saving, they're shoveling money into their 401k or 403b. It's very possible for somebody to have 80 or 90% of their retirement savings in their IRA account. Maybe they have some money in their checking, and maybe they have one small investment account, but that small investment account, that's not going to, if you need money from your portfolio, that small investment account may not hold you for, if you're in your early 50s for 7 years. So, you're going to have to start taking from your IRA at some point. And so, we can implement this. Maybe you do withdraw down your non-IRA account balances for 2 or 3 years. Yeah. And then, once you've worked your way through those, then you move on to the IRA, and we set these up for that later period. The other thing is sometimes you guys may know somebody that's been disabled. Of course, that's not something that people usually plan for. It has been something that we've seen where someone's in their 50s, they become disabled, and they didn't expect it. And so, they kind of are put into a situation where, they have a large portfolio, but it's all in IRAs again. And so those are going to be some situations that we see where people are using these. Some of the downsides, Bob, you mentioned, it's just, there's going to be some taxes if you take from an IRA account instead of a non-IRA. Typically, you're going to be paying more tax. But the other big thing is, money in an IRA grows tax deferred. And so the longer you can leave that money there, the more it's going to grow. It's typically, I mean, of course we have down years in the market, but most years the market's up, right? So we're big fans of compounding and the effect that has over the long term. And so in general, if you can leave money in your portfolio and not withdraw, that's typically going to be the better result in the end. The other thing that it is a downside is that, again, the inflexibility, it can't be stopped. You may find yourself in the position where maybe you do this for 2 years and then you get an inheritance, or maybe you lost your job and then you find a new one after 2 years. Well, you gotta keep taking the money from here on top of the income from your new job. And so that's going to result in more taxes, of course. So, not always the best option, and there are all alternatives, but, give us a call and we can talk about your specific situation and see if this makes sense. That's really all I had, Bob, about 72T provisions. Any final thoughts?
Well, the only other thing that I didn't mention earlier when I was talking about the strategy, if you are going to use this, splitting it into a kind of a designated IRA amount, one of the reasons we'd want to do that is if for whatever reason you don't end up taking the 5 payments or up to age 59 and a half on the IRA, one of the nuclear explosions that happens is the whole IRA is deemed to be taxable. Retroactively and penalized. So it's one of those mistakes you definitely don't want to make. And so if you split the IRA out and you have the minimum amount needed to generate the minimum income you can get by with, that's safer for many reasons. And so again, this is just one of those tools that's in our toolbox. We do use this from time to time, but usually people have better ways to get to where they need to be for that kind of gap period between when they retire early and when they can start taking dollars out without the penalty. We do like to educate folks on these things, and we're always here to see if these things make sense for you, of course, like you said, Zach.
Yeah, and maybe you guys watching today you're past 59 and a half. This really isn't applicable to you, but maybe somebody, friends, family. We're definitely here as a resource if you know anybody that could wants to look into their specific situation. And as is all things, just like with regular RMDs, there is because of the calculation, the technical aspect of this, choosing which one. Definitely, there's a major tax component to this, and so as is with most planning that we do. We're happy to reach out to your tax advisor or whoever prepares your taxes. We would not recommend implementing this strategy on your own, and so please just because of the opportunity for error. So please give us a call or shoot us an email if we can help you out with this. Otherwise, that's all we had today. Thanks for joining, Bob. Next weekend, I know you're going to be talking about something. I believe we're going to have a guest.
We're going to actually hit on taxes a little bit next week. We're going to talk about gains and losses, and particularly carry forward losses. How do those work? How can they be used? And we've got local CPA Gary Brown, who's going to join me and kick that around. So I find that that's one of the areas that can be really confusing for folks, and I'm looking forward to that discussion next Tuesday, same time, same place.
All right. Well, hope you guys can join us for that. Thanks for joining today, and hope y'all enjoy the rest of your week. Take care.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.